everybody! Welcome to Rogue Atlas again. Today we're talking about 10 things not to do in Germany if you're a tourist. Also just not to do in Germany in general, I guess. I wanted to remind you it would make me really happy if you would remember to click like and subscribe at the end of this video if you want more cool content and you don't want to miss out on cool things to do in Germany and other travel secrets. Without further ado, 10 things you shouldn't do in Germany if you're a tourist. The very first one is don't be a drunk idiot on the street. I mean, really, I don't think you should do that anywhere, but definitely don't do it here. This is the thing. In Germany, as I've mentioned before, you can drink on the streets, you can sit in the park and drink with your friends. It's all really cool and fun. There's no such thing as disorderly conduct just from being drunk outside on the street, which is great. But also, you don't see Germans acting a fool and running around all crazy and running amok and destroying things and getting into fights with people and all that junk. Yeah, you just really don't see that. I think I've seen that maybe like once the whole time I've been here, and I've been out to quite a few places. Number 2 thing not to do if you're a tourist in Germany. These two are kind of opposites of each other, but they go with each other, so I lumped it into one. Don't assume everyone speaks English. Not everyone speaks English, and don't assume that that's the default. You shouldn't just want everyone to speak English everywhere. Maybe you should learn a little bit of German, at least like basic terms and questions before you come. Yeah, because Germans really do like it and appreciate it when you try to speak German, and especially in Berlin, they'll be really nice back and usually just speak English back to you because they can see that you're trying at least. On the flip side of that, don't assume that people can't understand you either, because most of them can, and if you're saying rude things, then they're going to hear you and they'll probably not be very nice to you after that. So item number 3 not to do when you're a tourist. Don't not try the food. I hate it so much when people come here and they want to go to McDonald's. McDonald's is slightly different in every country, okay, but it's McDonald's. It's all gonna taste like the same shitty fast food that you have in every country. If you come to Germany, you should try German food. If you're in Berlin, you should try currywurst. If you're in the south, you know, you wanna get the big Bavarian pretzel and bratwurst and Käsespätzle and all of those good things. Try some schnitzel while you're here. Just don't only eat your normal crappy food that you eat everywhere. Try to be a little adventurous and try some new things. German food's pretty easy to like, and it's not very difficult for picky eaters, so. Item number 4, and this is a really, really big one and should seem obvious, but for those of you who don't know this, don't make Nazi jokes, don't do the Nazi salute, don't draw a swastika on things, nothing to do with Nazis, it's not funny, it makes you look bad, and also on top of that, a lot of times it's illegal. Yeah, really, if you do the Nazi salute here, it's illegal. You can be fined, you can be arrested, and why would you do that anyways? It's like really rude and gross to the locals here. You know, Germans are not proud of that, and on top of it, it's something that they've tried really hard to move past. That's why there's a lot of monuments here. It's a pretty progressive country in general, and those types of jokes, I mean, you know, the world today is like PC. They're just not funny, just, you know, at all. So just leave that out. Number 5, and this is one of my personal favorites because I have my own personal rants about this, okay? You know, Germans are avid rule followers, so you should really follow the rules. Some of the rules are really basic and seem really dumb, but Germans get really bothered when you don't follow them. Example number 1, no jaywalking. Don't do it. You see a crosswalk and the light is red telling you not to cross, then don't cross it. Literally, I've had people yell at me, like random people across the street yell at me for crossing. I also had an example one time when I was going home very late at night. It was like 3 a.m. or 4 a.m. There was no traffic anywhere, and there was a crosswalk, and of course, like, I just walked across the street, and this German lady was just standing there, you know, waiting to be able to cross the street. And I was like, lady, you're gonna wait for 10 minutes and there's no cars. Like, what's the point of that? Whatever. Another example is walking in the bike lanes. Yeah, Germans get really bothered about this too. And you will very often have old German ladies and men yelling at you and wagging their finger and saying something. Also, this happens sometimes even when you're not breaking a rule and they just feel like yelling at you because they don't like what you're doing. Item number 6, don't expect that you can use credit cards everywhere. In general, it's becoming a lot more common to be able to use credit card and debit cards most places here, but it's just good to have cash on you. A lot of like smaller venue places, like for example, bars and restaurants and things like that, will want you to pay in cash. Or there's this other thing in Germany that's called an EC card, which is like a special German credit card basically. I mean, I don't even have one of those. Like, it's like with specific banks. So some places that take card don't take like normal cards like Visa or MasterCard. They only take these EC cards. So then again, you still need to have cash. just smart to carry like however much cash you think you're gonna need for the day on your person. It's just the easiest way to go. Item number 7. When you are attempting to speak German to people, be aware that there are formal and informal ways of talking to people. This is one way that you can be really rude unintentionally, and probably no one's going to scold you for it, but it's just going to be kind of uncomfortable and you're gonna see that they feel a little bit disrespected. What I mean by that is that there's 2 different ways to say you in German. There's du and sie. And basically, if you're saying du to someone, that's like informal, that's like your buddy or someone you've already been introduced to, or this is a big one, people who have told you that you can call them du. That's a big one. Otherwise, people you don't know, in general, strangers, you call them sie, and then elders, bosses, anyone that's like above you, kind of on the totem pole, would also be sie, unless they tell you otherwise. That's really hard for me, actually, when I'm speaking German to remember all the time, because there's different ways that that gets translated, depending on if you're saying you, or if it's a direct object or indirect object, then it changes. You know, that's complicated. But in general, if you're learning German, there's formal and informal, and probably also polite when you're speaking to people in English to say Mr. or Miss if it's like older person or a worker. Item number 8, and this was really weird for me as an American, but in general, it's polite when you go into someone's house for like a dinner party or something like that to take your shoes off and leave them at the door. You know, Americans don't do this. We definitely come in and keep our shoes on the whole time. You know, nobody wants cold feet, but that's like pretty rude here. But if it's like a big party or a big gathering, then sometimes it's okay to leave your shoes on, but you should really ask your host first if that's okay. But in general, rule of thumb, if it's like a small gathering, would be to take your shoes off before you come into the house. Item number 9. People assume that you can go whatever speed you want to on the Autobahn, but this is not the case always. In large stretches of the Autobahn, yes, this is true. There is no speed limit. You can go as fast as you want. But on the parts where there are speed limits and you need to slow down, like if there's construction work or just if it's like a congested area or on off-ramp or whatever the reason may be, then they'll have what's called a Blitzer, and it's like a little camera that identifies how fast you're going, and if you're going over the speed limit, then it issues you a ticket and sends it to you in the mail. I know we have these in America as well in some states, but you know, people don't expect that on the Autobahn. They think that you can just go as fast as you want to and just have your fun. I mean, in general, I think that's true. That's why there's so many nice fast cars here, but if you do get caught with that, then you can get a pretty hefty fine. So better to just avoid that or pay attention to the speed limit signs. And lastly, number 10, don't stereotype Germany. A lot of times when tourists come here, they haven't done any research at all, or they've done very minimal research and they don't realize that all of Germany is not Lederhosen and Oktoberfest and giant pretzels and so forth. It's different in different regions. Yeah, you just have to experience that, right? That's just Bavaria. That part that people think of that's classically German is Bavaria, which is a really cool area to visit. I love Bavaria. It's really great. Definitely a good place to go. One day I'll go a little bit more into depth about that. But yeah, you know, you should come in with an open mind and ask, if you really want to know, ask the locals what the special things are about their areas, or look it up on the internet if you're going to different places. You know, what's special in Hamburg, what's special in Berlin, what are the foods that are special to those areas. All of those kinds of things are important, but just remember that it's different in different places and not everywhere has the half-timbered houses and people wearing lederhosen. Yeah, so that's all for today. Thank you for joining me. I hope this was interesting, and the next time you decide to make a trip to Germany, look up these 10 things that you should not do as a tourist so that you don't offend anyone and you can fit in smoothly and be a good tourist. You want to always be a good tourist. So again, thank you for joining me today with Rogue Atlas. It's been really wonderful talking to you today. And please remember again to click like and subscribe if you want more content. If you have specific questions, shoot me those on Instagram, and I will be happy to maybe make an episode on something that's specifically interesting to you. Thanks a lot. Bye!